In a temple lit only by flickering torches, priests once bowed before a roaring presence, veiled in fire and smoke. They thought they had touched the throne of God, but what sat there was not the eternal source of light. It was a shadow crowned with stolen brilliance, a false king who demanded worship. This is the Demiurge, the self-declared ruler who mistakes his own voice for the voice of the true. His roar echoes through history, shaping religions, laws, and power structures. But beneath the mask of authority lies blindness. The question arises, is this Demiurge the same as the devil we know from Christian law? Are they both masks of the same cosmic adversary? Or is the Demiurge something more, something hidden in plain sight? To answer, we must peel back centuries of confusion, fear, and intentional rewriting. The Demiurge is not merely evil in the way we imagine demons or devils to be. He is ignorant, blind to the higher reality from which he was born. His arrogance is born not of rebellion but of delusion. He truly believes himself the only God, and it is this blindness that makes him dangerous. The devil, by contrast, is cast in Christian theology as the adversary, the accuser, the rebel who stands against heaven. One is blind and arrogant, the other is defiant and calculating. And yet, to the human soul trapped on earth, the outcome feels the same. Oppression, temptation, distortion, and bondage. It is no wonder then that people have confused the two. For what is worse, a devil who knows he opposes heaven, or a God who believes he is heaven itself? Both represent imprisonment of the soul, though by different means. To see clearly, we must journey through the myths, scriptures, and spiritual memories that preserved these truths against centuries of suppression. We must compare the Demiurge and the devil, the Archons and the demons, to find out what forces we are truly up against. This is not an exercise in abstract theology. It is about the very system that ensnares your consciousness every moment you forget who you are. It is about the invisible powers that feed on ignorance, fear, and obedience. And it is about the antidote, the eonic light that dissolves both Archons and demons alike. But to reach that light, we must first walk through the darkness. When the Gnostic texts speak of the Demiurge, they describe him as a lion-faced serpent, a being of fire and arrogance, shouting into the void, "I am God, and there is no other beside me." His name is Yaldabaoth. He is not the highest source of all life, but a fractured echo, born of Sophia's descent, a creation that believes himself to be creator. His kingdom is vast, but it is counterfeit. His throne shines with false light, but it blinds rather than liberates. The Demiurge is ignorance given form. He does not know the Pleroma, the fullness beyond him, because he was born cut off from it. And like a blind ruler, he reigns in arrogance, mistaking his own isolation for supremacy. In his delusion, he fashions worlds, bodies, laws, and rulers. He builds a prison out of matter and declares it paradise. This is not merely myth, but a spiritual code. The Demiurge represents the systems of control that enslave the soul, false authorities, religions that demand obedience instead of awakening, laws that punish remembrance of freedom. His very essence is blind governance. He rules not because he is strong, but because he is unchallenged in the minds of those who forget the source. Unlike the Christian devil, who is cast as a rebel, the Demiurge is a pretender. He does not know he is pretending, which makes him far more insidious. His power is not outright destruction, but counterfeit creation. He builds a world so convincing that souls mistake it for all there is. He whispers, "Worship me, and you will live," while hiding the true light beyond his domain. This is why Gnostics saw him not as a demon, but as a false god. The Demiurge is the architect of the matrix itself. He weaves illusions of heavens and hells, rewards and punishments, to keep the soul looping in endless cycles. His false throne sits not above, but within the very structure of this reality. And yet, he is not ultimate evil. He is ignorance. His blindness does not cancel the eternal fullness beyond him. Like a parasite, he survives only by clinging to the sparks of light trapped in the matter he fashioned. Humanity's divine spark, the remnant of Sophia, is what keeps his world alive. Without it, his kingdom collapses. To understand the Demiurge is to see the scaffolding of the prison. Once you recognize that his voice is not the voice of the true source, his spell begins to break. To name him is to unmask him. The Demiurge is not the devil, but he is a devil in his own right, not by rebellion, but by counterfeit kingship. In Christian thought, the devil is not an ignorant craftsman, but a cunning adversary. He is the one who tempts, accuses, and deceives, standing in direct rebellion against heaven. His origins shift depending on which tradition you follow. In some, he was Lucifer, the light-bearer cast down for pride. In others, he is the serpent in the garden, the dragon of Revelation, or the accuser in the book of Job. But one theme is constant. He is the enemy, the conscious force opposing God's will. Unlike the Demiurge, the devil knows what he does. He does not pretend to be the highest God, at least not in most traditions, but instead works to oppose, corrupt, or twist creation. He thrives in rebellion, feeding off the fractures of human weakness. His image is that of the rebel angel, brilliant yet fallen, intelligent yet malicious. He is the embodiment of resistance to divine order. The devil's domain is not necessarily the physical cosmos, as the Demiurge's is, but the battlefield of temptation, possession, and spiritual corruption. In the Christian imagination, he stalks the earth as a roaring lion, seeking souls to devour. He whispers in secret, strikes in shadow, and delights in turning humanity against itself. He is not the architect of the prison, but the saboteur who makes the prison unbearable. Yet when viewed through the lens of Gnosticism, the devil and the Demiurge begin to blur. For what difference is there between a God who imprisons you in ignorance and a devil who tempts you to destroy yourself? Both feed on your soul's forgetfulness. Both thrive when you no longer remember the fullness from which you came. And yet, to confuse them is to miss the nuance. The Demiurge is arrogant ignorance, the jailer who thinks he rules in righteousness. The devil is conscious rebellion, the adversary who chooses opposition. One enslaves through law and order, the other through chaos and temptation. Both are enemies of Gnosis, but they wear different crowns. Christianity, by collapsing all evil into the devil, often obscured this distinction. The Church painted the cosmos in black and white, God versus Satan, heaven versus hell. But the Gnostics saw shades within the shadows. They saw not just an adversary, but an entire counterfeit system, a Demiurge with his Archons, who ruled far more than a single fallen angel ever could. This difference matters because it changes the strategy of liberation. If evil is just a tempter, you resist his lies. If evil is an entire cosmic structure, you must awaken from it completely. You must remember a reality beyond the prison, not merely reject the voice of temptation. The devil may be the face of evil in Christianity, but the Demiurge is the deeper architecture of bondage in Gnosticism. To see both is to recognize the full scope of the battlefield. In the Gnostic imagination, the Archons are not merely shadowy creatures, but cosmic rulers. Their name comes from the Greek archon, ruler, authority, governor. They are the lieutenants of the Demiurge, guardians of the planetary spheres, jailers of the soul's ascent. Their power is systemic, woven into the very fabric of this world. They are the ones who shape law, inject fear, and bind consciousness to the wheel of repetition. To meet an Archon is not to meet a mere tempter, but to encounter the architect of your illusions. Demons, by contrast, are cast in the Christian worldview as rebellious spirits. They are seen as fallen angels, once radiant beings now corrupted, roaming the earth to possess, torment, and devour. Their nature is more personal, more invasive. A demon whispers to an individual, feeds on one soul's weakness, seeks to drag one life into ruin. If the Archons are wardens of the cosmic prison, demons are the shadows lurking in its cells. Imagine standing at the threshold of death. As your soul begins to rise, Archons appear as radiant judges, demanding passwords, rights, or submission to their false dominion. They test you, trick you, and if unprepared, they cast you back into the cycle of rebirth. Now imagine in life a demon whispering despair into your ear, fueling addiction, anger, or self-hatred, pulling you into the abyss of forgetfulness. One holds the structure, the other manipulates the details. Both exist to keep you from the light. The Gnostics taught that Archons are not necessarily demons in the Christian sense. They are not always conscious rebels, but rather extensions of the Demiurge's blindness. They maintain his false order like bureaucrats of ignorance, enforcing rules they themselves barely comprehend. Demons, however, are portrayed in Christianity as cunning intelligences with personal malice, agents of chaos, reveling in rebellion. And yet, when we look closer, we see overlap. What the Gnostics called Archons sometimes behave exactly like demons, parasitic, oppressive, manipulative, and what Christianity calls demons sometimes play the same role as Archons, agents of bondage, keeping souls from freedom. The difference is not always in function, but in cosmology. One framework describes rulers of a counterfeit cosmos, the other, spirits cast out of heaven. This distinction is more than academic. If you believe only in demons, you fight shadows one by one, trying to cast them out. But if you understand Archons, you realize the entire world system is constructed to keep you bound. The fight is not only against whispering spirits, but against the very architecture of reality. It is the realization that the battlefield is not merely inside your mind, but also in the stars, the laws, and the false heavens that loom over you. In truth, Archons and demons may be two faces of the same force, parasitism. They feed on the sparks of light in humanity, whether by ruling from above or tormenting from within. The forms they take may differ depending on culture, but the essence is the same. They are enemies of remembrance. And this is why the ancient Gnostics did not simply resist temptation, they remembered. They refused to give their allegiance to rulers, visible or invisible. They tore the masks off the Archons and demons alike, declaring, "You have no power over me, for I come from the Pleroma, and to the Pleroma I return." Picture this. A soul has just left the body. It rises in wonder, expecting release into the infinite. But instead of endless light, it meets radiant beings standing in rows, each crowned with fire, each clothed in robes of brilliance. They speak with authority, demanding obedience. "Bow and we will guide you to heaven," they say. The soul, dazzled, bows, and is returned to the cycle once again. This is the trap of false light. The Archons are masters of this deception. They know the soul yearns for radiance, so they construct imitations of it. They know the soul longs for peace, so they build counterfeit heavens, shining with counterfeit glory. Many mistake these realms for paradise, but they are prisons in disguise. The Gnostics warned, what appears as light is not always the true light. Demons work differently but with the same intent. Instead of offering counterfeit heavens, they entice souls into counterfeit desires. They promise power, pleasure, control, or escape, but always at a cost. Their goal is not to liberate but to entangle, to weave chains from the very cravings of the heart. Where Archons bind the afterlife, demons bind the present life. Both are architects of slavery. The brilliance of the trap is that it feels real. False light is not darkness. It shines, but it blinds. False promises are not lies. They are truths twisted just enough to ensnare. That is why the Archons can stand before a soul and appear holy, and why demons can whisper into the heart and sound like its own voice. Their deception works because it mimics what the soul already seeks. Gnostics taught secret words and passwords, not because of superstition, but because of recognition. To see the false light and say, "You are not the true," is to break the spell. To know the counterfeit is to awaken to the real. It is like a dreamer who realizes they are dreaming. The illusions dissolve instantly. Knowledge, not fear, becomes the weapon. In Christian exorcism, demons are expelled by command, driven out by authority. In Gnostic gnosis, Archons are dissolved by remembrance. They lose their grip the moment you know where you truly come from. This is the subtle but powerful difference, to resist temptation versus to awaken from illusion. One fights the shadow, the other sees through it. The trap of false light explains why so many spiritual seekers remain bound even after encountering visions of heaven or angels. Without discernment, even radiance can be a prison. The Demiurge does not always appear monstrous. Sometimes he wears robes of holiness, speaking in tones of majesty, echoing scriptures that seem divine. That is why discernment is the first step toward liberation. To pierce the trap of false light is to look beyond all appearances, beyond all crowns, beyond all thrones, to the silence before creation, the Pleroma itself. It is to remember that no being demanding worship can be the source, because the true source needs nothing. It only gives. Imagine a vast web stretched over the earth, invisible yet unyielding. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every law you obey is woven into its strands. This is the matrix of control, the living network of the Demiurge and his Archons. It is not only political, not only religious, not only psychological, it is cosmic. It operates through planets, stars, calendars, and rituals. It wraps the human soul in cycles of birth and death, making ignorance seem like destiny. The Archons are the gatekeepers of this system. Each planetary sphere, in Gnostic vision, is ruled by one of these powers. As your soul tries to ascend, they confront you, demanding allegiance or submission. They enforce the rules of time, karma, and law. They keep you spinning on the wheel of forgetfulness, mistaking repetition for eternity. They are not mere spirits, but cosmic administrators, weaving illusion into the very skies. Demons, meanwhile, operate within the matrix as parasites of the mind and heart. They whisper shame into your wounds, stir rage into your losses, and fuel cravings into addictions. They thrive on obsession and despair, keeping the soul too distracted to ever look up. Where Archons create the walls of the prison, demons are the jailers who torment you inside its cells. Together, they form a perfect system of enslavement. And yet, this matrix does not exist apart from you. It feeds on you. It requires your spark, your consent, your belief. Every time you take its illusions as real, every time you mistake its false laws for truth, you strengthen its hold. The Demiurge's kingdom is a parasite kingdom, borrowing light from the very souls it enslaves. Without you, it collapses. This is its great vulnerability. The danger of the Matrix is not just that it binds the soul after death, but that it shapes life on Earth itself. The rulers of this world, drunk with power, mirror the Archons above. Governments, religions, and systems of finance echo the same oppressive patterns. As above, so below. The counterfeit is replicated endlessly. Humanity bows to earthly rulers because it has already bowed to cosmic ones. But here lies the revelation. If the system is illusion, then awakening can unravel it. If the Archons are blind rulers, then remembrance makes you invisible to them. If demons feed on your despair, then refusal to yield starves them. The matrix of control is powerful only as long as you forget your origin. Once you remember, its walls begin to dissolve. This is why Gnostic texts insisted on knowledge, not belief. Belief binds you deeper to the system. It is submission to authority. Knowledge frees you because it connects you directly to what the Archons cannot touch, the Pleroma within you. To know your true self is to slip through the bars of the prison. The matrix is real, but it is not ultimate. It may hold the world, but it cannot hold eternity. And when one soul awakens, the web weakens, the strands loosen, and the false king trembles. For every spark remembered is a chain broken. For centuries, the figure of Lucifer has been tangled into the myths of both the Demiurge and the devil, creating confusion that clouds discernment. Lucifer, whose name means light-bearer, was imagined in later Christian tradition as the shining angel cast down for pride. But in Gnostic vision, the light-bringer is not the same as the arrogant craftsman. The Demiurge claims to be light, but is blind. Lucifer, as myth tells it, once carried light and then fell. To confuse the two is to mistake ignorance for rebellion. The Demiurge is no fallen angel. He never stood in the Pleroma. He was born in blindness, roaring into existence without knowing the source. His arrogance is primal, not chosen. He does not rebel against the higher, he is simply cut off from it, believing he is supreme. His crime is ignorance. His power is illusion. His kingdom is counterfeit. He is a prison warden who thinks himself a king. The devil, as painted in Christianity, is the adversary, the one who chooses rebellion. If Lucifer is this devil, then he is a conscious opponent, knowing what he does. He is not blind, he is defiant. He tempts humanity not because he thinks himself God, but because he despises the God above. His crime is pride. His power is deception. His kingdom is corruption. Now comes the great misunderstanding. Many equate Lucifer with the Demiurge, imagining that the fallen angel and the false god are the same. But their essence is different. One is ignorance crowned with delusion. The other is rebellion cloaked in brilliance. Both oppose the soul's ascent, but in different ways. To collapse them together is to miss their tactics. Why does this matter? Because strategies of liberation differ. If you face the Demiurge, you must awaken from his illusion. If you face the devil, you must resist his lies. To see clearly is to act precisely. The danger is not just in their power, but in the confusion they sow. For if you cannot tell jailer from tempter, you may fight shadows and leave the true enemy unchallenged. In some esoteric traditions, Lucifer was not seen as ultimate evil at all, but as a distorted echo of divine light. A reminder that even brilliance can be twisted, that even radiance can be corrupted. The Gnostics, however, kept their focus sharper. The true prison is not rebellion, but ignorance. The Demiurge is the greater threat, because he convinces billions to worship him as God. Lucifer whispers temptation, the Demiurge demands devotion. Lucifer offers counterfeit freedom, the Demiurge enforces counterfeit law. One seduces, the other enslaves. Together, they mirror the twin dangers of the spiritual path, to bow to false authority or to burn in false rebellion. Both lead away from the silence of the source. And so the Gnostic way was neither to worship nor to rebel, but to awaken. To see that beyond the prison of the Demiurge and the lures of the devil is a fullness untouched, a light unfallen, a truth beyond even angels and rulers. The light we seek is not the torch of Lucifer or the throne of Yaldabaoth. It is the eternal fire hidden within the soul. Every culture has told the story of cosmic adversaries. In Zoroastrianism, Angra Mainyu opposes the god of light. In Mesopotamia, Tiamat, the chaos dragon, must be slain for order to rise. In Christianity, Satan tempts humanity and wars against heaven. In Gnostic cosmology, the Demiurge declares himself God and binds the soul in ignorance. Each myth has different names, but all echo the same question: why does darkness exist, and why are we enslaved to it? The Gnostics understood that these stories were not meant to be read as literal history, but as living codes. Myth was the language of the soul, designed to bypass the prison of the rational mind and awaken memory within. The Demiurge, the devil, the dragon, the serpent, all are masks for forces that still move within and around us. They are archetypes of ignorance, pride, deception, and bondage. To read them as code is to unlock the patterns of the matrix itself. When you hear of a dragon slain by a hero, it is not just a tale of ancient warfare. It is the soul breaking free from the coils of illusion. When you hear of a devil tempting humanity, it is not only a warning, it is a mirror of how desire distorts perception. When you read of a demiurge declaring supremacy, it is not only myth, it is a map of how false authority arises in politics, religion, and even within your own mind. Myth weaves the cosmic into the human. It shows us that the rulers above and the shadows within are reflections of each other. The Archons of the stars and the demons of the earth are part of the same code. They appear different only because cultures chose different symbols. Beneath them all is the same truth. The soul has been bound by counterfeit powers, and remembrance is the way out. This is why myths across the world resonate with one another. They are not coincidences, they are fragments of a single, deeper memory. Humanity has always sensed the counterfeit kingdom. We have always known we are caught between two lights, the false glow of illusion and the true radiance of eternity. Every myth is an echo of this battle. The great danger is to mistake the code for the reality, to think the devil is a horned creature lurking in shadows, or the demiurge a literal lion-faced serpent in the sky. These are symbols. The reality is subtler and more pervasive. The Archons are in the laws that crush the spirit. The demons are in the obsessions that consume the heart. They are real, but they are not simple. To see myth as code is to use it as a map rather than a cage. It is to ask, what does this story awaken in me? What chains in my mind does it describe? What ruler in my life does it expose? Myth becomes not an old tale, but a mirror of the soul. It is no longer entertainment, it is initiation. And when you realize this, you stop bowing to names and start reading the patterns. You see that every dragon, devil, demiurge, or demon points back to the same truth. The only power they have is the power you forget you already gave away. The Gnostics did not leave us only with warnings of Archons and demons. They gave us a remedy, a memory, a living antidote. Beyond the counterfeit rulers lies the realm of the Aeons, the emanations of the Pleroma, the eternal fullness of divine life. These Aeons are not myths in the way Archons and demons are myths. They are not shadows, they are powers of truth, flowing directly from the source. They are the light that ignorance cannot counterfeit. Sophia, whose longing gave birth to the demiurge, is also the mother of our divine spark. In us, she planted remembrance, the seed that the Archons cannot touch. Christos, the Aeon of truth, descended into the world not as an enforcer of law, but as a revealer of gnosis, a mirror to remind us of our hidden origin. Silence, depth, grace, and light. All the Aeons speak through the fibers of the soul, whispering of home. Against Archons, the weapon is not rebellion but remembrance. Against demons, the power is not fear but presence. The Aeons teach us that the antidote is already within. Grace dissolves karma, truth unravels lies, silence shatters the roaring of false gods. Each Aeon is a force of liberation, a medicine for the sickness of illusion. Think of a soul confronted by an Archon after death. The Archon demands worship, but the soul responds, "You are not my ruler, I come from the Pleroma." Instantly the Archon loses its power. This is not arrogance, it is memory. The Aeons restore this memory, giving the soul the courage to face rulers without fear. They remind us that no being who demands submission can belong to the true source. In Christian thought, the power of Christ drives out demons by authority. In Gnostic thought, the light of Christos dissolves their very presence by truth. The difference is subtle but profound. One casts out by command, the other by remembrance. Both protect, but the Gnostic path insists that liberation is not borrowed authority, but direct knowing. The Aeons are not far away. They are within, because the human soul is itself a reflection of the Pleroma. To call on the Aeons is not to beg distant powers, but to awaken dormant forces inside you. When you embody grace, when you stand in truth, when you rest in silence, you are already beyond the reach of Archons and demons alike. You have already slipped through the net. The antidote is not war but awakening, not fear but knowledge, not belief but gnosis. This is why the Gnostics were hated by the powers of their age, because they refused to bow to gods of control. They carried within them the memory of the Aeons, and with it, the freedom no empire could extinguish. And so, against the Demiurge and the devil, against Archons and demons, the path is the same, remembrance. The Aeons are the bridge back to the fullness. They are not saviors who replace your power, but mirrors reminding you that you were never bound. Picture the world as it is, towers rising in every city, laws etched into every system, priests in robes, rulers in palaces, all echoing the same command: obey, submit, worship. Now imagine those towers cracking, those laws dissolving, those voices silenced. Not by violence, not by rebellion, but by awakening. Humanity lifts its eyes and remembers. The throne of the Demiurge is not the throne of the source. The devil's whispers are not the voice of truth. Both collapse the moment we refuse to bow. Breaking the chains of the false god is not a cosmic war fought in the skies. It is fought in the soul. It happens every time you say no to fear, no to blind obedience, no to temptation, no to illusion. It happens every time you choose remembrance over ignorance, presence over distraction, gnosis over belief. The chains fall, one by one, until the soul stands free in the light it carried all along. The Demiurge feeds on your worship. Deny him and he starves. The devil feeds on your despair. Refuse him and he flees. The Archons feed on your ignorance. Awaken and they vanish. The demons feed on your obsession. Turn inward to silence and they wither. Their power has always been borrowed from you. To reclaim it is to dismantle their kingdom. Now see the vision. A great multitude of souls, once bowed in chains, rising together. Their sparks ignite into flames, and the web of the matrix burns away. The counterfeit heavens crumble. The Demiurge roars in confusion, for his throne is empty. The devil snarls in fury, for his lies are no longer believed. And the Aeons shine, not as distant stars, but as forces alive within each soul. Humanity returns to the fullness it never truly left. This is the awakening the Gnostics tried to preserve. Not a religion, not a doctrine, but a remembrance, a way of piercing illusion, discerning truth, and reclaiming sovereignty. It is not easy. The Archons fight to keep their veil intact. The demons fight to keep their grip tight. But the moment one spark awakens, it creates a fire that no ruler of darkness can extinguish. Your life is not meant to be lived in chains. Your soul is not meant to be trapped in ignorance. You are not a servant of the Demiurge, nor prey for the devil. You are a child of the Pleroma, a spark of eternity clothed in flesh. To remember this is to rise above every ruler, every whisper, every counterfeit law. It is to walk free. So the question is, will you bow to the false god, or will you awaken to the true? Will you live in the matrix of control, or will you remember the fullness beyond? The choice is yours, and the moment is now. If this message stirred something within you, share it with others who are ready to awaken. Subscribe to this channel to journey deeper into the mysteries the world tried to erase. And if you feel called to go further, explore my books linked in the description, where these truths unfold into stories and revelations meant to guide your soul back to its origin. The time of awakening is here. The chains of the false god are breaking, and the light that was hidden is returning to you.